All right, here we are, Pittsburgh Sports Live. John Krysinsky here with Matt Popchock. We were talking Riverhounds. We have kind of digested the whole Miami scenario. Now that they're going to be back playing at the Miami FC for 27-minute, maybe some extra stoppage time. So here's the scenario. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds are, I can't even think, I don't think they've made a sub yet in this match. They did. Obviously, those guys, okay, so you got 11 guys on the field. Bob Lilly has got a 1-0 lead now. And, you know, we know what 1-0 leads are like for the Riverhounds this year. Now, I feel like the last bunch of games, they've done a pretty good job of holding lead. Now, they lost the lead last night against Charleston, but they showed a lot of resiliency coming back and getting that last goal. They didn't really seem to panic, did they, Matt?
No, they didn't. And honestly, John, I feel like last night was one of those nights where, like maybe earlier in the season, I would have, felt a little bit of that despair, a little bit of panic losing that lead. But it really did feel like one of those nights where it was like, they're going to win this match. They're going to find a way. This is going to end well for Pittsburgh. It's just a matter of how. And before I could even have the presence of mind to sort of sarcastically type out, well, it was fun having a good back line while it lasted. Russell Cicerone happened, and the rest, they did get the lead back, and the rest, as they say, is history. But even including their sort of second half gaffe that opened the door for Charleston to score that equalizer, I think if we are looking at positives from the Miami controversy and the game that we talked about last week, the game where they got the clean sheet against Tampa, where they clinched the playoffs to begin with, I think the biggest positive that you can take away from the last 7 days or so is the fact that maybe that group has kind of snapped out of it to some degree. Maybe, I don't know internally what happened, but maybe the fact that they shut down in succession two of the most dangerous teams in the entire Eastern Conference, there's something to be said for that, and maybe a light bulb did go on for that group. I think there's a lot of football left to be played, and we'll see exactly if that is the case.
Matt, and I wasn't completely discouraged by the goal they gave up last night.
Yeah.
As I pointed out in my analysis player grades piece, they did give a little bit, maybe too much space there just initially on Daly.
Yeah.
At the goal. But it was a quick shot, and I don't think Jelani Peters was probably the closest town to him. And he didn't react quick enough to close the space, but they were all in front of. It's just one of those things. I thought it was a really great strike, considering where he was. He was outside the 18. He just found that spot, and looking at Vitiello diving for it, I don't think he had a chance. And so it's one of those things where obviously in the playoffs, great teams, great players make great plays. We've seen that happen against the Riverhounds in the playoffs. They really didn't beat themselves to a point. Yeah, they beat themselves in, we could rehash all this. They beat themselves Bethlehem Steel a little bit, where maybe they should have finished a couple other opportunities. The same with the Louisville match. Bob Lilly will go on and on and on all day long if you just talk about the Louisville match that they hosted in 2019. Where he just didn't think they didn't finish chances when they had the opportunity to put Louisville away. Now Louisville came back and were definitely the better team after the 60th minute in that match. But all those things, lessons to be learned as they head towards the playoffs again. Is this team, are they playoff ready? And I think these two matches, Tampa Bay and against the Miami, and hopefully this last 27 minutes, and even coming back and getting that goal against Charleston, I think all signs of good things. And I think the other piece of it is I think they're dynamic enough that they have enough confidence to get those goals back, where maybe in the past they didn't. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do think that they're a little bit more confident and maybe a little bit more playoff ready than they were a year ago at this time. I feel like a year ago, or that last month or so of the season, they kind of took a breath and they really struggled to get that breath back. And there just wasn't enough time left in the season to right whatever wrongs there were. And they just kind of fell apart in what ended up being a very forgettable playoff quarterfinal match at Louisville at their new place. But I do think certainly from a mental standpoint, this team has proven the last couple of matches that it is in a good place. And one thing that struck me as interesting, and this could be my putting on a tinfoil hat and reading way too much into something that shouldn't be read into at all, but I couldn't help but notice the kit choice by the home side last night. They went with the road whites. It's almost, and again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's almost as if Bob is, with the standings being what they are and with the help that they may or may not get, it's almost as if they're preparing for that sort of, guerrilla road playoff mentality. They're like, it's almost as if subliminally they are trying to condition themselves for having to maybe travel the path that you and Mark and I were talking about just not long ago. And I think that that's a good habit to get into, because I think the reason that 2019 team put itself in the position that it was in going into that Louisville match, I think that team did a much better job conditioning itself for playoff soccer leading up to it than the 2020 squad did. I think the 2021 squad is doing a better job this year conditioning itself mentally, if not physically, for playoff soccer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of things that went into 2020, and it just strange bounces, the kind of the Hartford loss, it just threw everything out of whack, and then they couldn't really recover after that. I think there's just a bunch of things 2020. There were some kind of injuries. I think the attacking group, as Bob said, throughout the entire offseason, 2020 into 21, just wasn't dynamic enough, and he went out and made those adjustments, I think, and that's where they are now. I think that's that Alex Dixon, Russell Cicerone, the Tommy Williamson factor, where he's stepped into and played most of the minutes now that Albert Diekler, is kind of recovered from injury, but now maybe he's injured again. But again, this team, I think, has the pieces. Can they go? How far can they go without Albert Diekler being healthy, or some of these little issues here or there? But and the defense, can the defense sustain? And it's going to be against the top level teams. Shut down the Louisvilles, the Birminghams, maybe Pittsburgh South. Have to face Tampa again. Any of those type of matches. I mean, it's going to be tough. But the benefit is the home match will be against the third place team in this Central, and that could either be, I believe, Tulsa, I don't know, Atlanta, Memphis. They're all kind of battling for those last few spots. So bringing one of those teams to Pittsburgh, I think it should be a huge advantage for the Hounds. Whereas I think if they have to go on the road early, it's going to be either at Louisville or at Birmingham. Most likely, and we know that's going to be a challenge, but we'll see. All right, so last thing to kind of cover here. So yeah, they go to Miami, and then they come home for Hartford. How does this week play out? What do you think, Matt?
Again, I think this is a team that has its head collectively in the right place, and I think they've shown that over the last few matches, playing some very impressive soccer against very impressive opponents. And I mean, Charleston, I don't think has maybe the same talent as Pittsburgh, but it's a hard-working side that gives Pittsburgh fits for whatever reason, and Pittsburgh found a way to beat them. So, so much the better. I do think And I'll go back, as starting with the Miami match, I'll go back to something I said last week about why Miami doesn't necessarily scare me as much as maybe they should. Yes, they have the speed, and they obviously added a lot of skill in the offseason that's manifested itself. But in those matches against, the Riverhounds, just the way those matches played out, I think Miami's been a little fortunate to catch Pittsburgh napping to the degree that they did. Obviously, with the situation being what it is now, maybe maybe this is water finding its level. Maybe this is the luck starting to change, at least in terms of that series, that rivalry, that intra-divisional rivalry. And I do think that ultimately the Riverhounds do collect all 3 points. They close it out, whatever the score line ends up being. I do think they get all 3 points from Miami. And I far be it from me to get greedy, but I would love to see, whether it leads to a home playoff match or not, I would love to see a blowout. And I feel like the potential exists for a blowout in favor of the Riverhounds on Fan Appreciation Day. I think just the way they've matched up, at least recently, against Hartford, and the fact that Hartford is kind of out of it. I think Bob makes them aware that, hey, Hartford's going to be, they're in a misery loves company mode. They're going to come out and they're going to play us hard with nothing to lose, and they're going to try to upset the apple cart for us. And I think the Riverhounds remember what happened last year toward the end of the season with them, and I think they play that match with a bit of a chip on their shoulders. So I'm feeling bullish on this team right now. That could change literally at the drop of a hat, depending upon how the playoff standings shake out. But no, I like where this team is going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and in Charlotte, of course, we'll be keeping close eye on Charlotte as they move forward. I believe they have the 2 matches left as well, but they have the advantage right now in terms of the points. And the Hounds can't tie them. They tie them, they lose the tiebreaker. So yeah, they need help. The Hounds need help. I will say real quick though, give Bob Lilly 27 minutes, and he'll give you the world. No, I'm using an old and wins promotion.
I remember it well.
Give us 20 minutes and we'll give you the world. No, Bob Lilly, give him 27 minutes. My goodness. I mean, the first 20 minutes of the last couple, all of the Miami matches he's played this year, they definitely look like the better side. So I don't know if that will equate on Wednesday evening when we tune in for a half an hour. It should be wild. I mean, it's still hurricane season down there. You don't know what's going to happen. They could be playing, it'll be a monsoon come through and they can't finish, but I think it's officially a game after 70th minute anyway. So it is all kinds of crazy stuff.
It certainly should be.
It's not over. It won't be over, but we'll see. It should be. I'll tell you what. We're all going to tune in for a few minutes, and it should be very interesting.
That will be the next. That will be the next Miracle on the Mon, if you will, the next book. It'll be written just about that match specifically, and the layer.
Steelers, it was interesting. You brought up the whole white uniform thing. It made me think about the 2005 Steelers, who obviously played in white uniforms through the playoffs, got to the Super Bowl, and they were the home team. And Bill Cowher and company, and they're like, we're wearing the white jerseys in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Of course, we know the rest of the story, and Jerome Bettis and wins in Detroit and yada, yada, yada. But, it's an interesting theory. I'm open to it. I think that the Riverhounds do alternate their uniforms here and there.
That's true.
At home, but it'll be interesting. My guess then, if we're going to play the uniform game, is, first of all, I think they have to wear the same uniform, right, on Wednesday night, because it's the same.
You may be right.
So they had to keep those yellow ones clean. I don't know. And then Saturday, maybe we'll see the alternate jersey on Saturday, because they could,
Yeah.
All right, we're going on about uniforms and whatnot, but Matt, thanks for joining me tonight. Any final parting words? This should be a very busy week in Pittsburgh soccer. We've got the WPIL playoffs. You know, the college teams are coming down the stretch. There's so much going on. We're so excited, so much excitement, and it could all lead to Highmark Stadium the first full weekend of November.
Yeah, it's I would just say on a personal level that it is going to feel great to be back at Highmark Stadium watching high school championship games and covering them for PSN. That is a feeling that, as much fun as I had last season out here in Wexford, I certainly missed being down on the South Shore, and looking forward to that again a great deal. Interesting times for Pitt on the men's and the women's side. The women still have, I think, a few more corners to turn, but getting closer and closer to doing so. The men look still like on their best day they can play with just about anybody. And Duquesne looks like they're going to be rounding out a pretty impressive season, both men's and women's. And Robert Morris continuing to make progress on the men's and women's side, maybe a little bit more on the men's side at this point, but I do see the women taking some baby steps as well. So fun times.
Fun times, busy weeks ahead. So it'll all be on Pittsburgh Soccer Now. So looking forward to it. And thanks again, Matt, for joining me tonight. As we
You
were
bet.
sounding, I didn't say it in the beginning, but we're sounding off on soccer. Have a great night.